Hello and welcome to the Permission Mission Show, broadcasting live here at the WWDBTV Las Vegas. I do want to let you know right off the bat, we are in the windy months of March, and if it happens to go out at the time that the show is broadcasting, please bear with us. We do not have control over something as much as the weather outside. It looks like the camera is moving. Oh goodness. We're already getting the wind here in the studio. Here we go. Let's see. Hello. Thank you for staying with us. Not sure what happened, but the camera is having a mind of its own this morning. Here we go.
What are you doing?
Are we good? This is what I love about live shows, is that they're unpredictable. We never know what's going to happen, and it's all a part of life, which is a great...
Expect the unexpected.
Expect the unexpected. And listen, I always said, talk about hard stuff, right? Because it's always better to be prepared when things change than to sit and act like everything's going to be the same all the time. It would be boring anyway. So my question to start off today's show is, do you remember your first kiss? I remember mine. I was 11 years old. It was a truth or dare. Now, if someone would explain to you about what a kiss is like beforehand, would you be interested in it? I don't know, because if you really think about it, you're going to tell somebody how it's going to go. So you'll be telling a person that they're going to get very close with this person that they know or they don't know very, very much, which was my case. I knew this person, but I certainly didn't stand very close to this person. I was 11 years old, and it was a truth or dare, and we had to stand behind a tree for 25 seconds. 25 seconds isn't long, but it did seem like a lifetime when I'm sitting there having to kiss this boy that I didn't know very much. So anyway, we're standing close together. So you're going to look into the eyes of somebody for a period of time. You're going to smell their breath. Now, not everybody's breath smells good. I hope that people's breath smells pretty good when you're getting ready for a kiss. But hey, not everybody's breath smells good. You're going to exchange some saliva, possibly. Now, listen, if anybody told you this ahead of time, most likely you would check out of getting the kiss, unless you had a little bit of practice. Let's be honest, right? I know that over the years, I've had a little bit more practice with it, and kissing, whether it's my husband or giving my kids a kiss or kissing all over my grandchildren, it's taken some practice. Now, why do I bring this up when it comes to mortality, which is what the Permission Show is all about? I am here to simply normalize the conversation so that we can talk openly, boldly, and bravely with one another, with our families ahead of time, so that we have things in place, we have prepared, and there are not going to be those awkward moments of surprises, right? Because already it's a hard day. Already it's going to be uncomfortable. And if we have some answers ahead of time, it's going to be a lot easier for our own well-being, knowing that our wishes will be carried out, but also for the family that we love, giving them some direction. Daily, I work with families in and out, and I tell you, it's always the same. If there's some plans put in place, it's as if proper grieving begins right off the bat. If there are no plans in place, it's that open, vulnerable, whatever could happen is going to happen. Sometimes it works out okay, and then sometimes it doesn't. That's very unpredictable and kind of scary. So practice makes promise is our focus today. By practicing openly discussing mortality with even with just ourselves. I mean, every day I talk about the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule is favor inside, and value everyone and everything. Now, that grounds me in the morning when I'm getting ready to get in my car. I remember the 5-second rule. Today could be my last day. How can I favor me? How can I make sure that I'm paying attention to the things I'm doing, paying attention to the things I'm eating, paying attention to all the things that are going on around me that are out of my control, yet I have control to just take a quick 5 seconds and check in with a precious life, my own and other people. So that's why I talk about mortality all the time. People ask me all the time, Mary, why and how have you been successful with getting people comfortable with this particular topic? And I say it's just been practice, because practice is promise. You may just simply want to just check in with your family and explain to them that you watch this show, that you are listening to me and some other guests who have been on the show, and how we're talking openly about the topic of mortality. Like, what does happen when a person passes away? What are the costs? Who's going to be involved? Who's the legal next of kin? What if there is no legal next of kin? What if there is no money to make plans on all of a sudden day? Because we can't predict when it's going to happen. We just know that it's going to happen, and we're smart, educated people. And I believe the frustration of not talking about this is what's producing higher stress in everyday life. I was talking with a gentleman this morning, John, here at the show, and he said, you know what, who really made up the rule that we couldn't talk about mortality? I said, I'd like to know. I don't know who made up the rule, but it's got to be broken at this point, because it's not serving any of us to not have this information in advance. It's certainly not going to change the fact that we all are going to go, but it will make the difference for the family still surviving or the friends still surviving to have permission to talk about it themselves as well. I have all my plans in place. I did them 7 years ago. I had one of my other producers on the show who have shared that he too has put his plans in place with his wife, and they don't think about it anymore. And I don't think about it anymore, other than, why don't we talk about it? Because we can talk about it, and it's going to be okay. But because the world said at one point in time, somebody made something up and said that it was too difficult, or it was morbid, or it was something too hard, or that, you know, all the different things that have been made up that have kept us from saying what we want to say when we want to say it, especially with those loved ones who are passing. I know there was a moment with my father, and it took everything inside of me to go past the fear of saying it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what is that? He is my dad. I should be able to say anything to my dad. And for whatever reasons, it was just hard. It was like a big lump in my throat that wouldn't come out until I just said, look, I'm a crazy woman at this point. I'm talking to myself. I don't know if you do this, but hey, it's always a good conversation or a not so good conversation. But I'm literally in my head just saying at his bedside, why, Mary, are you not saying what you want to say? And I didn't like that feeling that I only had this limited time to do what was important for me. And I knew it would be important for him. And all of a sudden, like, it just wouldn't come out. It took a few minutes for me to get the courage and say what I wanted to say. And it was beautiful. And it was like that kiss, you know, you're nervous from the beginning. You have the first real kiss. Okay. My truth or dare was just a practice. But when I had my first real kiss with a boyfriend, I don't even know how old I was at that point, but old enough to have had a little bit of practice. And it was like, wow, this is great. I'm going to keep doing this. And that's my hopes for the Permission Mission show and changing these rules around mortality and just being open to explore and discover and question these things. Don't let things stop you. If you know that you want to say it, just talk yourself into saying it. Don't let yourself not say it, because those are those regrets that I I don't want anybody regretting, but I know that people do regret. I have some still myself with my brother. I still work on it on a daily thing. I'm always saying, look, I know that he's was the greatest brothers that I had, and we had the time that we were supposed to have the time together. And I know that he would only want me to be happy and keep living life to the best of my ability and not suffer because they're not here, or just make up things that don't make sense anymore that would take from a quality of life for me and my family. My mom, I know that she's had to really practice a lot with this. She's let me practice with her on this. We spoke this morning, and she's always like, you're going to rock the show, Mary. As long as you're just talking about what you love to talk about, you're going to rock the show. So she's enjoyed, I believe, just forgiving herself a little bit more, because back when she lost her first child in the early 50s to polio, it wasn't something anybody was talking about with her. And that was hard for her. She held it in. In a past show, I shared that she held it in about 60 years. She doesn't have to hold it in anymore. She can just talk when she wants to talk and share when she wants to share about her children who have passed away, and also about all of her children who are still living. I think it's done really well for all of us. And that's the promise that I want to keep practicing, so that other families can experience that same, just some comfort. I know a lot of people are still really sitting in grief, and I understand that. I know that grief's going to happen for those of us who have had loss. I just believe that the ones who have lost want peace with their passing, and also for us to find peace in our own lives. And a way to do that is by preparing for our own mortality and talking about our own mortality. So when it comes to talking about death, it's not comfortable, yet the difference is just like a kiss. It'll take some practice, and the benefits will be worth it in the long run. So one of the tips today on talking about mortality, the first one, and I've said it in prior shows, was, make sure that you're accepting your own mortality first. If you have an aging parent, say, look, mom, dad, I'm going to go one day too. And gosh forbid if I went before you. I'd really like to sit down with you all and talk with you about what are your wishes, what's important to you, what's not important to you. Oh my gosh, my father, it was hysterical. We said, Dad, what kind of songs do you want played at your service? And he named off a list of ones he did not want. So you might even want to start there. What do you not want? In the last show, we had the beautiful, beautiful Susan Hoy with the Nevada Guardianship services. And she was speaking about how, what she does for a living today was a direct result of a conversation she had with her dad. Back when she was in her early 20s, she brought the conversation came up. They both got scared, but at least she got out of him what he didn't want. So that helped them when he passed away years later. That helped them. But Susan Hoy in Las Vegas, what she does is she helps those families that are in situations that they cannot make decisions for themselves, whether it's needing help to get into nursing homes, needing help with Medicaid, needing help with a guardianship. I realized I learned from the show last week was the guardianship and how it works. It's so important. It's so powerful to be in that position, and you want to have it done right, because we want she and her team, and also I with Permission Mission, and making sure, we can discuss these things ahead of time while we can. She's more about making sure that people have a good quality of life. If they're in a vulnerable situation where they've lost the ability to make decisions, or they've lost the ability financially to handle, and they need more care. So it was an honor and privilege to have her on the show. And Susan, I just wish you the very best, you and your team. Always keep doing what you're doing, do it well. And I'd even like to have you on the show again in the future. So number that we had her information up on the show here today. Yes, her services you can reach her at 702-629-2017. Please reach out to her if you know of somebody, or you're in the situation where you need some guidance for some guardianship, or simply need some guidance in your parents taking the next step, whether it's going into a nursing home or having some home care or any of that, when it comes to figuring out what's the next steps for us as we continue to progress in life. So people, I actually had somebody yesterday call me and say, Mary, you're so at ease with talking about this topic. And I said last week on the show, I said, I'm at ease because I've accepted my own mortality. And that's really what just brings me comfort, knowing that I've talked about it, knowing that my plans are in place. I've talked about it with my family, little bits and pieces. Just know that I'm just like you. I've gotten it here with myself, okay? I still need practice, though, with my family, because the minute I bring it up, which was me just years ago, it was like, let's change the subject. And so good news is I just keep bringing it up. I keep saying, you know what, listen, I'm going to go one day. You're going to go one day. Let's talk about it. If a person is consistently and constantly telling you that they don't want to talk about it, and you know that you're going to be in the position to make those final wishes when they happen, I encourage you to go to the closest funeral home and get the information about what costs are, what options are, because it's certainly going to make a difference on you that day. Having the information ahead of time instead of just waiting, because so often we just get busy and we wait and we're not sure what to do when a death occurs. It happens suddenly without any notice, without any warning. And in some cases, some people are going through some illnesses. I encourage you that if they're feeling a little bit more vulnerable at that point. So just be straight up and ask them, would it be something you'd like to be involved with, or would you like me to take the lead? Because that question they'll answer that. They'll say, yes, you take over, and just then you have permission to, move forward. And if they say no, then, just honor that's just where they're at. There's no wrong way for this. Again, we're just in the beginning stages of being really educated about it. Just simply say, okay. And then you'll decide if you're going to be the one Go get the information ahead of time. Just ease your mind to know what things cost. That is a pretty big common situation for me when I sit with families. If they've never pre-planned before and they've never lost somebody close to them, it is a shock. They are just kind of blindsided, and that's hard to get a person to overcome, that challenge alone, the financial part of it. Because at that point, finances are going to dictate what they can and cannot do. And that really creates a lot of stress and frustration. Just see what the costs are. There's pre-planning allows payments versus when a death occurs, the only option is to pay right up front, all in full. So that alone is a huge benefit in having a chance to think some things through, make some payment arrangements versus bam, it happens. Everything's going to be asked up front at one time. And that already hard day becomes an even more difficult one. So we're going to go to a commercial. I'd like you to stay tuned with us. I'll have more when we get back. And you'll also want to hear who my next guest is going to be on the show. And thank you for again joining WWDBTV. Please remember that you can see this live on the website, also on YouTube. The permissionmission.com website is a place to go to ask any questions, or if there's a particular topic that you want me to share on the show, I will. And also with the Mary McElhatton Facebook page is where you can always tune in, share my videos, please, or the broadcasting show with family and friends. You just never know what person needs to hear it at what particular time. We'll be right back after the commercial.
Are you looking for someone to provide training to your staff? Do you need a motivational speaker about how to handle change? Do you have an upcoming event that needs an MC to handle those responsibilities? Well, look no further than longtime Las Vegas radio personality Aaron Phillips. I am local to Las Vegas, and I can blend my talents with any audience. For more information, please visit www.aaronshour.vegas and book me for your next event or training needs.
Hi, my name is Edgar Alejandro. I'm the co-founder of Rising Again Productions. So we've been here in Vegas producing films for the past couple of years, and we've seen our fair share of studios. We've worked in our fair share of studios, and to be honest, WWDBTV has been our favorite by far. John is so welcoming. The space is wonderful. It's perfect for what we need. We've had rehearsals here. We've had callbacks here. We've had table reads here. So if you're a Vegas creative, or really just a creative coming into Vegas, definitely check out this space. Chat with John. I think you'll find that this studio has everything that you'll need as well.
Welcome back to the Permission Mission show, broadcasting live here in Las Vegas on the WWDB-TV. My name is Mary McElhatton, your host. I was talking about practice making promise. Practice talking about the conversation of death, how to prepare, how to have questions answered ahead of time on good days, not being afraid of it anymore. I had mentioned that the very first tip I give is accepting mortality ourselves will always be the first step in helping somebody else accept talking about theirs. I know, our parents, if you have parents still surviving, I have my father who has already passed. My mom's still here. We're having these conversations, having to bring up some tough topics about what's next. Having my mom already prearranged truly is the greatest gift for me. I tell you, what didn't come easy. My mom had been in the funeral home 3 times bearing her children. So it was a little bit more difficult with her. But once she called me and said, "Mary, I'm ready." We went to the funeral home. She chuckled all the way through, to be honest. I was quite surprised. But please know that we had been talking about permission mission for a few years at this point, and she had made all of her wishes, and my sister and I were with her, and we actually skipped out of the funeral home. Now, that was precious for all of us, and I want that for other people. I get so excited when I'm meeting with people to talk about, prearranging and final arrangements on both cremation, burial, and cemetery. What's even more exciting is when they're planning it together. If they have their children with them or if they have their grandchildren with them, it makes a difference. Maybe not that day. I know that it makes a difference that day because it did for me with my mom. I just can't imagine what the difference is going to be on the harder day and how some comfort will come with all of that, because we've had the discussions. We know what the wishes are. I was so grateful for my mom to have done her wishes ahead of time, because I shared with her, like, I won't have to work, Mom. And I really, truly appreciate that as your daughter, that on that day, I truly get to just honor you and the life well lived. And that is what is promised. That's one of the promises that we get when we have had this talk now. And a lot of people say, well, I have time later. I'll get to it, or I'll just have my children do it. Shoot, I've given so much to my children. It's the least they can do. Please know that I get those children in before me. And that's tough to hear, that they have to now make all these plans because they love you. They don't want to be doing it wrong. And that's the biggest thing of all of us, is we just don't want to do it wrong in planning for somebody else, because it haunts us if we didn't do the right thing or if it wasn't what your wishes were. And also added to that is, if you have more than one child, those children don't always agree on a hard emotional day. It's not a typical day. Thankfully, it's not a typical normal day. It's now become an emotional one. And if the children don't agree, that kind of this stops everything, because depending on legal next of kin and depending on circumstances, if a family does not agree, we are not able to move forward with any type of plans. And that's tough to tell a family that. And I know that that's not what they want to be happening. They don't want that to be happening at that time. Again, because of the lack of education, the lack of the conversation, the lack of the pre-planning, it's bound to happen. I had it in my own family. We didn't agree that day. My mom and dad were a mess, and I couldn't blame them. Having to make about 100 decisions on a very hard day, and they're important decisions, is not the day to be having them. It's today to have them. It's now to have them. And do it while things are good if you can. But if they're not good and there's some health issues going on, it's okay too. The ones in the hot seat, just say back to us, the ones who look like we're not in the hot seat, just say you're going to die too. So do something about it. That's the best way. My father did that to me. I was like, Dad, I don't know. I can't do this, not one more day. Yes, you can, Mary. Listen, my day is numbered. I'm good with it. We've got everything in place. But on the other hand, you're going to sit and stress about it. So do something about it, which is what brings me here today to do this work with all of you. And I appreciate you staying in it for the long haul. I appreciate every week when you're not sure what I'm going to talk about next. I appreciate the fact that you too are taking it into your homes. I've received calls from a couple people that have actually sat down with their family and started the conversation. And that to me is progress. That to me is practice for a promise. And I know that it's going to make a difference in homes across the world, because we don't need to be afraid. It's not the thing to be afraid of. It's the most important thing we can actually be empowered by. I've only gotten more confident in my life because I know that day is taken care of. I'm more urgent about things in my life. I make decisions quicker. I was just talking with somebody yesterday about decisions. Decisions, we are overloaded with information. We have to choose between not one box of Life cereal, but between 10 boxes of Life cereal. Come on. That's crazy. That's what's making it more difficult. Bring it here. Just it's life and death. Everything in the middle is just a gift. I make quicker decisions because I know that this could end sooner than I want it to be. So when it comes to making a decision, I make it based off of right now, not 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now. I'm making the decision right now. I hear it a lot from even people I love. I'll do it soon. I'll do it next week, or, things are happening right now. That's fine. I always say that's fine if that's a guarantee that we're going to be here. This is just make a decision based off today, because so many times people don't want to make a decision because maybe they're moving, or maybe their kids are getting married, or maybe grandkids. I always say the same thing. Just do the bare minimum then. Just the minimum, just so that if that day was to happen, your children first and foremost know who to call, or everything is planned so they at least have a selected funeral home that will take care of the loved one who's passed and also the family. There is nothing more comforting to know that when you've lost somebody you love so quickly, you know where they're at. Some people don't get that opportunity. If a death occurs suddenly, they're scrambling on where's their loved one. That's not a good feeling. So at minimal, just make a decision just based off of today. If you move, everything's transferable. If you change, you can change it. They're flexible. Especially to those ones I'm talking to today who've been putting it off for a while. Please hear me today. Today is the best day, because there's never going to be a good day to have this conversation. But when you don't get the chance to, that's when it's a lot harder. So take on the big challenge, the Mary Challenge this week. Stop by your local funeral home. Reach out to me at permissionmission.com. We can schedule a time to just talk on the phone for a couple minutes, and I'll answer those questions that you have. I have a couple questions myself. It will just enlighten you. Every person who walks away from my appointments, I ask them, how do you feel? Oh my gosh, Mary, I feel so much better. I'm like, yes, I said, isn't it interesting? I'm going to take it back to that first kiss, right? We're all nervous. We're sweating, maybe a little bit of sweating. We don't want to screw it up. We don't want to do it wrong. And all of a sudden we have the kiss, it's over, and it does feel a little bit exciting. It's the same with making arrangements for our final day. It relieves that tension. It's making sure that lump in the throat is not controlling us or me or you. It's saying what we want to say to the very end and being brave and bold and proud about it, because that's what the educational piece of Permission Mission is, and talking openly about mortality is those gifts. They come after. They're not going to come before. It's only by having to take the first step, acknowledging our own mortality, and then making sure that you're reaching out to your family. Set up a time that works for them. Let them know what you're going to be talking about. I don't suggest that you say, hey, I've got something important to talk to you about next week. I would say, I've been thinking about if something happened to me, I want to know what your wishes are. Can we sit down and just talk about the first step? And that is, do you want cremation or burial? That opens up for them to really just say, okay, yeah, I was thinking about it. Or I haven't thought about it, but at least they know what they're walking into. You'll be more likely to have success with the conversation going somewhere. No surprises on this one, guys. You got to be straight up, straightforward, and just go all in. We're talking about some pre-planning or some open discussions about what our family's interests are, what our wishes are, what kind of legacy we want to leave, and also some traditions. I love watching these traditions being carried out because people have talked about it ahead of time. So I promised you that I would share with you who is our guest for next week. I had to do a little bit of finagling, all right? But I pulled it off. I have a birthday next week. My children asked me, what do you want for your birthday, Mom? I said, I want you guys to come on the show. And you know what? It worked. I guess me getting older is a good thing. So I will have my three of my 5 daughters here on the show next week. You do not want to miss it. We are going to be asked questions by an outsider, a person in the profession, to help us answer some really great questions. I want to be an example. I have not prepared the answer or the questions myself. They will be prepared by somebody else, because I want us to be a great example of a mom and her daughters talking openly about death and what that can look like for you to bring it into your home. Because I practice what I preach. I do not ask people to do what I'm not willing to do myself. And this, I have it. I'm more comfortable with it, but bringing my daughters into it, it's going to be a great show. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope to see you all. Make sure to schedule out that time. We broadcast live every Friday at 11 a.m. Again, you could see us on WWDBTV.com or the website, YouTube, Permission Mission website, also Permission Mission Facebook, and Mary McElhatton Facebook. Thank you all for joining me today. Have a wonderful day. You in Las Vegas, drive safe. Remember the 5-second rule. Favor inside, value everyone and everything. And be careful with that windy roads out there today. Just be careful in Las Vegas. I'll see you next week.